Whoop whoop. After taking 3 days off to go down to Sarasota with my girlfriend Brennan, I was back in Tampa, ready to hit these 2 5 streets at the Seminole Hard Rock. Let's go! The under the gun player opens it for 15, and then everyone calls before the action's on my hijack with King Queen of clubs. I could just flat in this spot, but where's the fun in that? I go ahead and 3-bet it up to 90, and then I get 3 different callers. 4 ways to a flop of Jack 8-4 rainbow with 1 club, but when the action checks to me, I think this is a good spot to check back and take a free turn. Not super interested in bluffing into 3 different people on the flop. So I check it, we get that free turn, and I'm glad we do because we turn an open-ended straight draw on the 10 of diamonds. The small blind bets out for 130. Everyone else in the hand folds, so the action's back on me here. And I don't want to go ahead and fold when I do have so much equity with the open-ended straight draw. I don't want to raise either because I'm pretty convinced the small blind does have a pretty strong hand on this board. I mean, they're probably going to have all the Jack 10 offsuit combinations, probably all of the sets on this board since people don't like to 3-bet Jacks and 10s in Tampa, usually. Plus, even if they do have a hand that has like really good equity, like 10-9 with the pair and open-ended straight draw, I don't think they'll fold that here. So I just don't think a raise is going to get many folds. So I think the only option we have left is to call in position and try and draw to a straight on the river. So that's what I do. I throw in the call, and we do improve on the river because it's the Queen of Diamonds. So we do improve, but we only make top pair. And when the small blind continues betting for 200, I'm fairly convinced my top pair is no good here. Still give the opponent all the credit for 2-pair combinations and sets, as well as now any 9 that was an open-ended straight draw on the turn now has a straight. So immediately I take the option of hero calling off of the table completely. So that leaves me with 2 options. Of course, if you are convinced that you do not have the best hand, you're probably going to make a lot of EV by folding, but I start to get some evil thoughts in my mind. And I look at this board, and with the way that the action played out, I could very credibly represent Ace-King by going all in here. I mean, I probably would flat that hand on the turn. It's definitely a bit loose, but it's going to be a hand that realizes so much equity when the queen completes the open-ended straight draw for 9x. So I think I could credibly represent that. Plus, I still am convinced that the opponent might be betting for thin value with their 2 pairs and sets on the river, and it's going to be very hard for those hands to call an all in. So the evil thoughts win over, and I rip it all in as a bluff. And then the small blind hits the tank, and they're shuffling their cards back and forth. They're probably in the tank for about 90 seconds or so before eventually sighing and throwing a chip in the middle. That is not what I wanted to see. I end up showing my bluff, and the opponent shows pocket 10s. So absolutely brutal to get called off by the set there. After the hand under the gun even said, I put you on Ace-King there. And then someone else at the table said, yeah. So clearly my bluff was at least somewhat credible. Unfortunately, I probably just chose the wrong villain to pull it on here. Before we get into the next hand, I just wanted to take this opportunity to invite all of you to join the Anti-Gambling Gambling Club. Head over to leybets.com. We have a bunch of different anti-gambling gambling club t-shirts, hats, and hoodies in all different types of sizes and colors. So head over to leybets.com and join the club. But for now, let's get back into the gambling. So passive low jack open limps, and then I'm in the hijack with my favorite hand in all of poker. That's right, break open the new pair of batteries because it's double A time. I have pocket aces. I ISO raise it to 25, and then a passive big blind as well as the original limper calls. So we go 3 ways to a flop of King Queen 7 with 2 hearts. When the action checks to me, I think this is a great spot to bet for value, particularly against 2 passive opponents. I go ahead and make it 30, and then what do you know? They both call. So we're still 3 ways to a turn, which is the 6 of spades. When the action checks to me again here, I definitely think this is still a good spot to continue betting for value. However, I will say it is a bit dicey on this turn. I think passive opponents are going to have probably all the offsuit combinations of 6-7 offsuits. So it's not like this turn is a complete brick, but there's still so many worse hands we can get called by King X, maybe Queen X, flush draws, straight draws. So slam dunk value bet spot in my opinion. I make it 100, and then the big blind calls and the low jack folds. So we do get to the river in a heads up situation, and the river, King of Diamonds, oof, absolutely brutal. River, the opponent's king combinations did get there. So when they check it over to me, I think it is interesting whether we want to bet for value or not. And honestly, I think it would be a bit too thin. I do still, even though they didn't lead the river, give the opponent credit for a lot of like King 10, King Jack, maybe even King 9 offsuit combinations, calling in the big blind, as well as a bunch of the King X suited combinations. And then a lot of the rest of their range is just going to be miss flush draws, miss straight draws. And even if they do have Queen X, if they called on the turn, they'll probably will call on the river, but I think that's way too narrow of a range, and you're going to be losing EV by the time you get called by King X, which I think is probably making up more than half of the combinations they call with. So I do check it back just for the opponent to show me King 10 offsuit. So there you go. Glad I didn't get really sneaky and try to bet this river for value, because I think we're going to get snapped off here. Maybe even raised, to be honest. Next up, the under the gun player open limps, and then a relatively short stacked low jack ISOs it to 15. Then the action's on my big blind with ace 9 of diamonds. I think the best play here probably is just to flat. The low jack didn't start off with that much in their stack, so I'm not super keen to lower the SPR. So definitely probably should just flat with this hand, but yet again, that option's no fun. I mix in the spicy 3-bet. I go ahead and make it 70, and then the under the gun player folds and the low jack calls. So we do get heads up with the short stack to a flop of ace 10 8 with 2 diamonds. Hey, I take back what I said about this being too loose. Absolutely love the 3-bet when I smash the flop like this. I could go ahead and check this hand, but again, the passive options are going to be less fun. I choose the aggressive one. I go ahead and c-bet it, 445, and then the low jack calls. So it heads up to a turn. The SPR is less than 1 at this point. So it's definitely a bit dicey going forward, particularly if we don't improve. And we don't improve on the turn. It's the 10 of clubs actually pairing middle pair. So when the action's on me here, I just check it over to the villain and just see what they do. I'm probably not going to fold if they do go all in honesty, but at least this way we're free rolling a bluff, which we wouldn't if we just jammed. I think we're probably only getting called by hands that have a higher showdown value than mine. So I check it over to them, and then the opponent doesn't go all in, but they don't check either. They actually go ahead and bet 55, so a smaller size bet. So, I mean, state the obvious, I'm not going to fold to this size bet. I mean, we're almost getting direct odds to draw to our flush or full house when villain bets this small. But I don't like shoving either. So I do just decide to call, and then it's going to be interesting how the river's played. The river is the jack of diamonds. Let's go. We do make the nut flush. Now, the SPR is very, very low. It's less than half. I think going all in here would be pretty face up that we do have the nut flush, and maybe that'll induce a hero fold from my opponent's ace-x combinations. It'll be absolutely insane if they folded a 10 to bet this small, but I guess it is pretty face up. They have the nut flush when I go all in as a lead here, but having said that, I think I just have to anyway. Like, the opponent is not going to bluff on this river. Like, what would they even be bluffing with? Like, King Queen got there, which will probably call a shove anyway. Jack 10 now beats me as a full house. Any other 10x combination, I think it's probably just going to check back on this river. So yeah, I think it's kind of between a rock and a hard place in this spot, but I think we just need to do the face up line and just rip it all in here and just pray the opponent calls with an ace or a 10. So that's what I do. I rip it all in, and then the villain folds. Ace Queen, face up. So, absolutely brutal. We did not get paid off here, but having said that, like, the shove is so face up, but what the hell else am I meant to do? Like, he's not betting Ace Queen if I check it to him on the river. Next up, under the gun, open limps, and then I'm in +1 with Ace Queen offsuit. I go ahead and make it 35, and then a pretty short stacked hijack calls, as does the original limper. We go 3 ways to a flop of Ace Queen 6 with 2 hearts. Let's go. We do make 2 pair. Under the gun checks it over to me here, and I think with the short stacked hijack in the mix, might be a good spot to just mix in a trap and induce shoves from them when they're SPR. It's a little more than 1, but I think if they have any piece of this board, they're probably going to go ahead and bet and just try to double up or go home type thing. So we want to give them the option to do that. I go ahead and check it over to them, then they bet 55, so they don't go all in, but when the under the gun player folds, if they don't want to go all in, I'm definitely going all in for value with my 2 pair. I rip it in for 140, and then the villain snap calls. So we're all in, we have top 2 pair, it's going to be a great scenario. I show my hand, and then the villain shows ace jack of hearts, so they have plenty of equity against us. Let's see if we hold on a run out. The turn is the 10 of hearts, so goddamn, the opponent does get there, but we're still not dead yet. We have our 4 outs to improve to a full house, and the river, 8 of hearts. So unfortunately, according to the rules of poker, a flush does beat 2 pair, and villain's going to double up through us on this hand. See if we can turn things around in this next one. A loose aggressive under the gun player makes it 25 off of a pretty short stack, and then a passive cutoff that's deeper stacked calls. The action's on my button with Queen Jack of diamonds. I really hate cold calling 5x opens, even in position in a live 2-5 game. So my options are either fold or 3-bet here. I think folding's probably the best play, particularly when it's a short stacked opponent. If we 3-bet too large, we're probably going to be priced into calling an all in, which is going to be dicey since people don't 4-bet light typically in Tampa. You know what I always say though? Folding is boring and raising is fun. I choose the fun option yet again in this video. I go ahead and 3-bet it to 110, and then the under the gun player, what do you know? They're all in for 350. Cutoff gets out of the way, and the action's on me here, and now I extremely regret 3-betting, particularly to the size that I chose, because now we're kind of priced in to call, being that we don't have to call that much more. If I thought the opponent was super tight and they really only had aces and kings, then sure, you can fold to that. And that is the case versus a lot of 4-bet ranges in Tampa, but I think when someone's short stacked, they're more likely to go in with a bit of a wider range, just trying to double up or go home type thing. So even if they did have ace king, pocket 10s, pocket 9s, I would not be surprised at all. And now equity against the range that includes all those plus the premiums, we're probably going to be priced in to call this bet, even though I absolutely hate it. I do throw in the call, and then the villain shows ace king. So it's actually not too bad of a scenario to be against this hand. I definitely would rather them have ace king than ace queen, for example. But we're off to a run out. 9-8-3 rainbow with 1 diamond. So we do have the gut shot to improve, as well as our 2 overs. Plus run of diamonds, not totally impossible, except for when the turns are 6 of hearts. So yeah, no improvement there. We're going to need to catch one of our 10 outs on the river. Can we do it? The river is the 3 of spades. So absolutely massive whiff for us. Their ace high beats my queen high. And yeah, some major punishment for being so aggressive so far. So yeah, 2 for 2 with the bad luck in those previous 2 hands. Let's see if we get a bit luckier this hand, or maybe just actually play it well. So anyway, we've got a $10 straddle on, and I'm under the gun, and it's time to start throwing some batteries around, because I've got the double A's, pocket aces. I raise it to 25, and then I get 2 different callers. So we go 3 ways to a flop of Jack 10-9 with 2 clubs. When the straddle checks it to me, I mean, if I could have handpicked a board that was bad for aces, I mean, so I think if we're going to check any board with pocket aces, this is probably a good one to do it on. Honestly, just to play cautious because we lose to a lot on it. So I check it over to the button, who goes ahead and bets 50. Then the straddle calls the 50, and as much as I hate this board, I think it would be a bit too nitty to fold aces here, and raising would also be a bit of an overplay, in my opinion. So it leaves me with a 1 option that I'm not even hugely in love with, to be honest, but can't go anywhere. I throw in the call. We're still 3 ways to a turn, which is the 6 of diamonds, putting out backdoor diamonds. When the straddle checks it over to me, just going to continue with my caution, check it over to the button to see what they do, and they do not slow down. They go ahead and bomb it for 200. This gets the straddle out of the way. Now the action's back on me, and yeah, I've just hated this hand ever since the flop. The fact that the opponent is just absolutely bombing it on this turn with the 2 flush draws. I think they have so many 2-pair combinations on this board, probably all of the sets and maybe even all of the straights. I mean, you got to keep in mind it's Tampa. People don't 3-bet hands like hardly ever, so I've got to give them credit for having a lot of strong hands in this board. So I really think, as much as I hate it, I have to throw these batteries in the muck and fold my pocket aces. Hurts to do it, but I did find the discipline to do it in game, and I was really glad I did, because the villain was actually kind enough to show us Queen 8 of diamonds. So there you go, they did flop a straight, and we were absolutely able to avoid disaster. And hey, I finally played a hand well. Let's go. So after that one, we've got a little bit of momentum rolling. Let's see if we can build on it even further in this next hand. There's a button straddle on, and then a tight aggressive big blind open limps. Then I'm under the gun with ace queen offsuit. I go ahead and make it 60, and then I get a call from a passive button, and the original limper actually folds. So it heads up to a flop of king 10-4 with 2 hearts. We do have the ace of hearts, by the way, so the action's on me, and I wouldn't hate c-betting as a semi-bluff with this hand. Definitely a decent combination to do it with, but I think checking is a little bit better. I think the chances we do have the best hand is very likely, so we don't necessarily want to filter out the opponent's range too much. With the backdoor hearts, we can continue to some action depending what the opponent decides to do. So I check it over to them, let them make the decision, and they decide to bet for 60. Now the action's back on me, and I wouldn't necessarily hate flatting in this spot, although calling out of position with only a gut shot and the backdoor nut flush draw, definitely not the highest equity hand we could choose to defend here with. Having said that, though, I wouldn't hate the play necessarily, but I think I came up with an even better option. Check raising as a bluff. And I actually think this is a great hand to do it with. Against a calling range, this hand it still has equity with the gut shot and the backdoor nut flush draw. I get a bit naughty. I decide to check raise it to 200, and then the villain rips it all in for 940. Well, shit, I guess I fold. So yeah, no luck turning the momentum around there, but Not going to quit. Let's see if we can get things happening in this next hand. We've got another button straddle on and then a tight aggressive small blind open limps. A passive big blind makes it 25. Under the gun calls. The action's on my low jack with ace king of clubs. Let's go. Absolutely love the old ace king suited. I 3-bet it to 110. Then the action gets back to the small blind original limper and they actually decide to back raise as a 4-bet to 275 off of a $500 stack. I don't know about you guys, but this line looks extremely strong to me. And what's even crazier is that the big blind sees this and then decides to go all in for 400. Now the action's back on me here after the under the gun folds. And look, I know I do make big folds a lot in these videos, but I don't even think this is a tough spot, to be honest. I think it's a slam dunk fold. Like, the small blinds line is already extremely nutted. Like, if they did have anything but kings or aces, I honestly would be surprised. Like, they didn't even 4-bet all in. They just, like, barely just above min clicked it. Like, it's an extremely strong line. Not only that, but the big blind saw them do that and then decided to go all in anyway. Like, I think the chances I'm good here with ace king is almost for certain that I'm not. So I do decide to make what honestly is a pretty easy fold when you consider all that in mind, but emotionally is a hard fold to make because I love my ace king suited. But I did the right thing. I ended up mucking it in this spot, and then the small blind calls the all in. The big blind shows pocket queens. So okay, we would have had pretty good equity against that hand, but then the small blind shows pocket kings, and there you go. They did have the absolute monster. Boy, am I happy I folded. And on Brunner, the big blind actually hits a queen and ends up actually scooping the small blind. No, we would not have beat them. They end up scooping the hand, and the small blinds limp raise trap with pocket kings didn't end up working out for them, and our fold ended up working out for us in the long run, I suppose. Definitely was able to avoid disaster. Let's go. But after getting absolutely stomped these past few days at the casino, I took a very welcome reprieve as Brennan and I decided to go down to Miami Beach to celebrate Valentine's Day together, our first Valentine's Day together. I'm telling you, I had a much more lovely time in Miami than I did getting my ass absolutely stomped to pieces at the 2-5 tables. But to see what happens when I did get back to Tampa and started grinding again, make sure you check out my next video, subscribe to my channel, and you'll get that when it comes out. But for now, I'm out of here. Peace.